Hey man, I say hey man, the dogs all run by my feet. I could show you that right now, but I have to pick up the phone because this is all done on my Android. I have this little dog, Avy, who is like so protected of me. I have a huge German Shepherd, and if it comes around my feet, Avy's always like, "No, you can't go there." And they just did that. They just want to knock everything over so I can't speak. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and that's talk to you, or at least tell you about some of the things I've learned musically to get my music paid for. Not paid for, let's not say paid for, but get paid for streaming it, or other people streaming or downloading the music without any money coming out of listeners' pockets. I'm really involved with N1M Music. And for other artists, it's a good platform because you're going to be able to get a hold of actual people who actually listen to your music and like to give you a positive hey go boy and stuff like that. Unlike Reverb Nation or Bandcamp, which you hardly ever know who's visited the site, but N1M.com, #1 music. Seems to be way above everybody else, and they're based out of Sweden, so they're a little different format than the rest, and it's kind of a cool thing. But besides that, what I want to talk about is what I've discovered. You know, I was a songwriter back in the 70s and 80s, and back then we got paid for songs, but we got paid like bulk amounts, like, you know, $400 for this song, $700 for this song, and all in contract form, because at that time we didn't have the internet, so it wasn't the same process as we do now. And over the years, you know, that kind of died, mostly because of the Metallica Napster, what I call bullshit lawsuit, just making millionaires richer and forgetting the indies. The indies really did get knocked out of the picture because of that decision that was against Napster, because we were using Napster as our base to be able to let people hear our music above commercialized music, and so that changed the whole process. But at the same time, at that time the internet was being built and the ideas were coming, and as the record industry started failing because of that decision, and everybody could argue that's not why it is, but that is the main reason the record industry started to fail. Because it started failing, record companies started looking at other ways, and managers, promoters, other ways to use the internet. And now it's turned into a self-producing thing for musicians, where you really don't have to depend on anybody else. You can self-produce your own music and release your own music and package your own music, distribute your own music. You can book your own gigs. You can do everything right in the simple steps of the internet and online. But what I really want to talk about is what I found out is I found all this is true. I've been a self-producer of my own music for several years, but never have I had the success I've had this year with online services. Not with Spotify, not with iTunes, not with any online service, Bandcamp, Reverb Nation, none of them. But this year I found out something that was developed by gamers over and millennials over the past 15 years or so. Or less, 15 years latest they went back, but they started developing ways to promote their gaming ideas online with YouTube, and started making money at it. And I had to learn how that was that they were making money at it, and a lot of it was subscriptions, but there's also something else called coding and metadata. And if you don't know what metadata is, we all have it on our DAWs. If you're a self-producing musician, or even if you're a recording studio, obviously they use a computer now, they'll have that on their digital audio workstation, or DAW, whatever platform they used, where they can enter song information. And that song information contains metadata, and that metadata is what it goes directly onto your song or track, and it really it is going to become the way of copyright. You won't have to worry. You really don't have to worry about copyright anyway. You haven't had to since the internet, because everything you do is on an IP address, so you're covered. You know that yours was done at this date on this IP, and that's all taken care of. But now what people forget is to enter information of metadata and song information on their songs as they're recording, or before you even start a recording, so it's there. The most important thing is to get a hold of a rights organization like ASCAP or BMI. Very inexpensive to join. You only have to have one published song, which means you've actually listened to it, and that's pretty much it. You can become a member for as little as $25 to a lot of the rights organizations, and then you want to get like maybe a universal sound or a code. You need to have a code for your songs. And the code works with the International Song Registry. It's called an International Song Registry Code, and it's done by the ISRC, obviously. You can go to isrc.com and buy your registry code for as little as 20 bucks. Sometimes it's 45 bucks, depends what you're doing, but still it's cheap. Once you get that code, you have a code to put on every one of your songs, each one with a different number. And the codes come out in like 11 numbers or 13 numbers. First two would be like your name, your code, which connects you to this music. The second one would be maybe the title and other information and the rights organization all in it. So in my situation, mine would be similar to like NA4JD. And those 5 digits connect me to that music forever, no matter where it goes on the internet, no matter what happens. I don't care if you buy it, I don't care if you get it at the store, I don't care what happens. If you have my music, it's going to be coded and everything's going to know that it's mine. And that doesn't mean you have to pay for it. It's not like it used to be where you had to pay a royalty. And even the radio station like Pluto Radio, which I do a lot of work with, it's a non-commercial station and non-profit. So at this stage, and even if we were profit, you just don't pay the royalties. You can follow royalties and pay out royalties to other bands, but you don't have to, because there's banks of money that are set up from people like streaming services or streaming radio that are commercial. They're set up with a certain negotiated price to give to the rights organizations to pay you, or to pay any artist for that one song that they get played once every 7 or 8 days. So with that said, it's important to get to the song information on your DAW. Make sure your name is entered. Make sure your name is with a rights organization. Make sure you enter your ISRC code. And what will happen with that is that there's a couple different things. First of all, whenever your song's played in a car, mobile, or whatever, it's going to come up with the title of the song and your name. That's going to be always prominent. So like, you know how you listen to radio stations now on your radio in your car or whatever, and it'll come up and it'll say like, First Abandoned City, Tom Trapp, or something similar to that. Well, that's because I entered the metacode. The metadata is on that, etched in there. And it's real simple. It's just typing a few different things. The code is there to relate that specific piece of information to all of the royalty collection agencies around the world. And let me tell you, there's quite a few of them. And what they do is there's Identify is good for YouTube and some other spots, but they can actually identify if your song has been used by anybody on, let's say, YouTube or the internet for any purpose. Then that counts as a royalty to you. And of course, royalties aren't that much, but they compound over streaming services. Like one song of mine sat on a player at the Country Music Awards dinner for 23 hours and 23 minutes, and that paid me over $1,200 for that. And it wasn't licensed, it just played over and over again, and that was recorded. It was recorded that my song was playing over and over and over for that long, and that long paid pretty good money. Now I find with the streaming services, the average is 0.06 cents per play, or 0.08 cents per play. It can go up to 14.14 per play, depending on where it's at. But those add up. A lot of people, I have a lot of friends who are bigger bands, much bigger than me, that have been streaming for years, and they're only making 75 cents a month. And I was speaking to a couple of them recently, and I asked them, well, how do you code your songs? And they were like, we don't code them. And I said, well, who codes them? They said, well, when we send them to CD Baby, they do it. Or when we send them to iTunes, they do it. But the problem with that I've discovered is that they code them, yes. They code them with iTunes or CD Baby's code. So your name and information is not necessarily collected from that code, but the amount of plays from those stations is collected. But that doesn't give you a royalty at all. Actually, if you really dug into it, and I have not, but I would speculate that they actually get some money for your music. And that's part of their deal of playing, it's like the play for free thing that's gone on. We'll talk about that for one time too pretty soon. So it's important that you get an ISRC code, or there's a couple other code agencies overseas in Europe and Germany. I think they have their own there that are the same. They're international codes. Doesn't matter where you get it, but get a code that relates back to your name, to your rights organization, to all rights organizations. And that's the ISRC. It's international, and it goes to all rights collectors. Now, Universal Music Sound is the one that actually distributes that fund, those funds. So it's pretty cool to get involved with them too. I've been with them since 1985 with both ASCAP and Universal Music Sound. But I never got into coding till recently. And the bottom line is, over the last 3 months, I have been on one streaming service. One. And I just received a check for $561, I'm sorry. And that check is for the streaming that came from that one site. Now today we have over 50,000 streaming services in the US alone. So if you're able to get on all streaming services, you do have the opportunity now to make some really decent money. And especially if you get into film and music and stuff, and we can talk about that some other time too. But basically this whole video that I just gabbed about and just ranted about for a while is something I've wanted to do for a while, and that is let musicians and artists know that coding is very important. It's very important to get your metadata on all your music now, more than ever, because now it's going to connect you to that sound and you alone. It's not going to be anybody else. Somebody else uses it, it's going to connect it to you. So it's really pretty cool and pretty smart to do it. It's real simple. So next time you record a song, most people don't look for this, but up in the file, you can click on file, and it'll come down at the very bottom, it'll say song information. Or when you're going to set up a song, you go create song, and your DAW opens up, and then you look on the drop down, and there will be a song information, and go to that. And when you see that song information, just fill it in. And if you have a code, boom, you're better. Actually, if you just use your name and the name of the song, it's pretty effective now too. But the code connects you with everything that's done with your music, and that's what I'm seeing a benefit from right now. And I don't know, I know that not everybody understands it because I've talked to people, but now that I've talked to some people, I think they're clicking and realizing that, you know, maybe it's better for them to get their own code and just enter it instead of having CD Baby or iTunes or Amazon do it for you. And you know, even Amazon has a great product on a side note, and that is if you do release a song, they will actually produce CDs for you with your label and your information, and they sell those CDs for about $9.99, and you get $3.99. So for $6.99 a CD, they're going to produce it, they're going to put it together, they're going to package it, they're going to send it out within one day to your clients, and it makes distribution really easy in the hard surface form, which is almost obsolete, but not yet, getting close. So that's all I wanted to talk about, and I'm sitting in my backyard, 62 degrees today, and we don't see much fall weather here in Dallas, but today it's sort of falling, and this week it should be pretty good. So although, you know, now with the sun as hot as it is, another story. 62 degrees becomes 72 pretty fast. UVs do come through, and today they are seeding the clouds here above me, and that's zinc oxide, of course, and that's what does two things. It keeps the UVs from coming through. It also allows for wavelengths of information for Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff, and computer radio frequency to travel through the universe without being obstructed by the UVs. So, blah blah. Too much science for you, I'm sure. Anyway, that's all I want to say. So, Tom Trapp, Poolside Plano. I'm listening to Pluto Radio right now, and that's going to upgrade here real soon to Shoutcast. If you're an artist or musician and you'd like to be heard, you can always send your music in at MP3. That's all they take for this streaming stuff. So MP3s to Pluto Radio Music at gmail.com. I'm sure. I think. Yeah, Pluto Radio Music at gmail.com. Or you can send it to me, the Song Butcher, at gmail.com also. And I can get them up because I do shows there too. Anyway, have fun, and if you get a chance to stop by the N1M site, it is Tom Trapp, pretty basic Tom Trapp, aka the Song Butcher, and we'll see you there. My songs are up at iTunes, the new records up at iTunes and Amazon and every place else, all the streaming services now, and that new record is called View from the Bottom of My Glass. It actually is a view from the bottom of my glass, which I have an empty one right now, although it's a glass bottle. I'm going to go fill it up. Sam Adams has traveled the world around, haven't found a better beer. You know how it goes. All right, peace. It's good to talk to you. I know it's a long rant, but get your stuff down and metadata, man. I want to see you guys make money. It's stupid not to. You might as well be making money like everybody else. I'm an experience. I've discovered that it works, so don't be afraid, and don't be discouraged by the amount of money that you see royalties pay, because that compounds. The one site at $561 is now 50,000 sites. How much do you think that brings? I think I'll leave you with that, because I'm going to find out. All right. Peace. We'll see you again soon. Have a good day.